Here we have a little slide on a microphone technique. So when you're recording from home, essentially the same sort of principle as you would use in the studio. So basically a hand space between yourself and the microphone is ideal in terms of not getting too close to the microphone. Using wind socks or microphone socks is still a good option. Doesn't matter exactly where you're recording from, even if you are doing so inside. A pop filter is also handy as well if you've got that as part of your kit of items that you have to your disposal at home. But over on the right-hand side is essentially the waveform. Now, that's a screenshot taken from Adobe Audition, which is just one of many digital audio workstations or pieces of software that you can use. But one thing that is fairly much in common with most software programs is what's called the waveform. So in other words, the way to measure how loud or soft the material that you're putting into your audio file is. I guess probably the best way to describe that is it's essentially the equivalent of the VU meter. So the little meters that tick or display digitally on the desk in your studio and let you know how loud or soft the material is that you're putting to air. Exactly the same principle applies in digital audio software. So you can see an example of a good waveform. So a good waveform is where you have a reasonable amount of space or black area between the green lines and the top of the screen there. So that's what we call headroom. So essentially it means that you're giving yourself a little bit of a buffer between full blast and something that's sort of sitting a little bit below that. So you can see in the top one there are some parts where it's fairly low and then some parts where it's a little bit high. But even in the high parts, which is generally when a person is, putting a bit of inflection into their voice or getting overly excited about something, then you will be tipping the top there, but you're still nowhere near the top. So in that top good waveform, you should have a very clear, crisp sounding piece of audio. Whereas in the bottom one, which is what we're calling a bit more of a poor waveform, you can see there, the audio is not overly concerning there, but there are some points there where you can see it's tipping all the way to the top of the screen. And by doing that, you run the risk of encountering something known as clipping or distortion, which is very, very difficult to get rid of using filters and the like. So you want to make sure that your recording is not being boosted too loudly into your digital audio workstation. And the best way to do that, as we said earlier, is to make sure that you have the volume set a little bit lower on your microphone or whatever device you're using, or if you're going through a portable audio recorder like a Zoom or the Sony that I showed you earlier, that you might think about using the auto level function, so that way the device is controlling all that sort of stuff there for you.